All right, in this video, we are going to be looking at surface area of a cylinder. So first that I want you to think about is if I'm looking at these two circles in a rectangle, and if they were just pieces of paper, but I was going to put them together, what three-dimensional shape would it end up making? So hopefully what you're envisioning is something called a cylinder, or maybe you're thinking it would look something like a can of vegetables or fruit. So when we're talking surface area of a cylinder, what we really need to be thinking about is what are the parts of a cylinder, because I need to know all of the surface or the areas of each of the surfaces. So here's an illustration of what a cylinder would look like. So I have the blue, which is the outside. See how when it opens up, it's actually a rectangle. And then I have the two green circles on the top and the bottom. So we have three main parts of a cylinder. We have a rectangle, a round, and then two circles. So if we're finding the area, we need to find the area of each part of that cylinder. So two circles and a rectangle. So to do that, let's just take it piece by piece, which when you're finding surface area of a cylinder, that's really what you have to do. Just do a little bit at a time. So first thing is if we're finding area of the bases, we know that the area of a circle, which is what the bases are, is pi r squared. Pi r squared is equal to pi times r times r. So in this case, if we're using this as an example, it would be pi times 3 times 3. So if I multiply that, I am going to end up with 28.26 inches squared. Now this right here is how much the area of one circle is. So since we have a top and a bottom, what I need to do is I need to take that times 2. Or I suppose you could take 28.26 and add another one. But if I'm going to double that, what I end up with is 56.52 square inches. And this right here is going to be the two bases. So the two areas of the bases. So that would be for the two circles, the top and the bottom. Now, the little bit trickier part is the rectangle. So we know that if we're finding area of a rectangle is length times width. So we need to know like what would this side be and then the longer side. But since we're dealing with a cylinder, it's a little bit different. So I want to show you just a few things here. So I am going to put my video back up so that I can demonstrate a couple things. So first thing I want you to think about, maybe you have some of these really super cool snap bracelets at home. They were really cool when I was younger. So if I have this snap bracelet, and even on the back of it, as every math teacher's dream would have it, it's a ruler. I know you probably can't see that, but on the back of this, it says that it is 15 centimeters. So if I put this on my wrist, I want you to think about, see how it's in a circular formation now? So here's my circle. Is it still 15 centimeters if it's in a circle or if it's not? That length of it has not changed. So now if I put it like this, we're in a circle. This is making up the outside of the circle. What do we call the outside of a circle? What is the outside length of a circle called? Hopefully, what you're saying in your head is that this is called the circumference of a circle. So when we're calculating this portion of the rectangle of that cylinder, this is actually equal to what the circumference of the circle is. Same thing here. This is another just illustration. I have a can of oranges. And if I think about this label going around it, see how it wraps around the circle? So this right here, this label, when I take it off, is a rectangle, right? And when I put it back on, this portion of it, the top of that rectangle, see how it actually wraps around the circle of this can? So the circumference of the can is actually what this long part of the rectangle is. So that is going to be the circumference. And then if we think about this with the can, this other part of it, so we all know the top portion of this label is the circumference. This other length of it would just be the height of the can. So think like this from here to here is how tall the can is. So this side of the rectangle is just the height. So if I go back to this rectangle, what you can see is that we have two different parts of the circle, or sorry, of the rectangle. And we said that this portion is the height. So that is going to be the height of the can. And this portion on the top is what is the circumference. So this is the circumference of the can. Circumference is a super long word to write out. Or what is labeled on the MCA test is they call it the perimeter for some reason. I don't know why they call it the perimeter, because we never call it perimeter of a circle. We always call it circumference, but don't get me started on that. So this portion right here is the circumference of the circle, which we know circumference of the circle is equal to pi times diameter. So this top part is pi times diameter, and then this side is height. So I'm taking pi times diameter times height to get the area. So if I am looking at the formula for it, the way that you're going to see it is going to be perimeter, which is circumference, times height. So if I am thinking about the total surface area, this would be something that I would write down. Total surface area is going to be the area of the top plus the area of the bottom, which are the two circles. So 2B, that stands for 2 area of the bases, plus the area of the curved surface. And the area of the curved surface, the area of the curved surface is going to be P times H, which is the circumference, the circumference times the height. So write down that formula. We're going to use that for a few examples. So think we have the parts of a cylinder. So we have two bases. They are circles. So to find the area of that, it's going to be 2B, or 2. Let me just get my pen working again. 2 times pi r squared. Okay, and then the next part, that would be the top and the bottom. We would have one curved surface, which is a rectangle. And to find that, it's going to be the pH, which is standing for perimeter times height. So if I'm looking at the formula, what you are going to have is the surface area is equal to P times H, which is what the rectangle is. So the label of the can, and that is going to be pi times diameter times height. Remember, the pi times diameter is the circumference that wraps around, and this is height. So that's the area of the rectangle, and I need to add that to 2B, which is the area of the two circles. So that would be 2 pi r squared. So let's try a few examples with how we're going to do this. So here's my first cylinder. So remember, we are going to start with finding the two different parts. I usually break it up by saying, okay, I'm going to do the first two circles first. So I know that I'm going to do 2 times pi r squared. So in this case, we have the radius is 7. So pi times 7 times 7. So if I do pi times 7 times 7, that is going to give me 3.14 times 7 is going to give me 153.86. Now that is how much it would be for one of the circles. So I'm going to have to double that. And that's going to give you how much it is for the two circles. So this is how much the top and the bottom are worth. So then I'm going to go on to the next part. The next part is going to be the rectangle. And I usually write it just like this and do it as the two parts. So now I'm going to do the rectangle. So the rectangle, again, is going to be the pi times diameter, which is the circumference, times the height. So pi times diameter. So the radius here was 7. So I know the diameter is going to be 14. And then the height is just going to be what the height of the can is, or cylinder, which is 14 as well. So if I do pi times 14 times 14, that's going to give me 615.44. So now this right here is the area of the rectangle, and this is the area of the cans, and we need to put, or the bases, we need to put these two together. So I need to just add the two numbers together because that is going to help me get the total surface area of every single surface of this cylinder. So when I add them together, this is my surface area of the cylinder. Okay, next one. Again, I usually start with the circles. So I'm going to calculate the areas of the two circles first. So I know I have pi r squared. So this time I'm given 6 is the diameter. So the diameter is all the way across the can. The radius is going to be half across. So my radius is going to be 3. So I'd have pi times 3 times 3. Now I already did that in a previous question, which is 28.26. And that is how much one of the circles is. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to double it. So I'm going to take it times 2. And again, that is going to be equal to 56.52 square centimeters. So this is how much the top and the bottom of the cylinder are. Now I'm going to do the rectangle. Remember, the rectangle is, the long side is pi times diameter because that's the circumference, and then it's times the height. So I'm going to plug in what I know. Pi, the diameter I know is 6, and the height is 8. So I'd be taking all those numbers multiplied together, so 3.14 times 6 times 8, and I get 150.72. So now this is how much the rectangle is. And what do we have to do with these two numbers now? I'm going to take both of these numbers and I'm going to add them together because it's taking all of the surfaces of the can, or I keep calling it a can, it's a cylinder. And I'm going to add them together to get my total surface area of this cylinder. So on the last one here, I want you to pause the video. I want you to try it out. You're going to see how you do. Once you are done, you are going to turn me back on and I will quickly go through what you should have done. All right, to do this one, what you should have done is take the 2 times pi r squared. So 2 of the circles. So the first thing we're doing are the 2 circles. The 2 circles are going to be pi times radius squared, so pi times 5 squared, so 5 times 5 times 3.14, and that's going to give me 78.5, and I have to double that for the 2 circles, so I get 157 inches squared. That is my 2 circles. Now I'm going to go on to the rectangle, which is the middle portion. And I need to take pi times diameter, which is the circumference, times the height. So pi times the diameter in this case is 10 times 9. 10 because that would be all the way across. So pi times 10 times 9 is 282.6. So now I have my rectangle, I have my 2 circles. I need to add those together to get my overall total. And what you should have gotten as the total surface area of this cylinder is 439.6 square inches. So remember, when you are calculating surface area of a cylinder, it is a few steps you have to do, but if you do it one thing at a time, it's going to make it a lot easier. Think area of the circles, there's 2 of them, area of the rectangle, add them together. That's going to give you your total. Please let me know if you have any questions, and thank you.